You've obviously got a great passion for, I mean, I've only been talking to you for 10, 15 minutes. It's very obvious. So let's develop the scene a bit more before we open the phone lines, and then we'll let viewers at you, all right? But, I mean, basically, you, in your mid-20s, as you were saying, you finally gave up and went into education, and you became a teacher at that point. And until recently, when you've moved into the Chief Executive Association of Christian Teachers, explain a little bit about how you came to that place, and then also develop, if you would, what is the Association of Christian Teachers, what does it do, how can it help people, etc. And so we give our viewers an idea of that as well, please.
Sure. Well, as I was training as a teacher, one of the things that I found was that I was receiving from my lecturers and from the books I was reading and from the non-Christian teachers I was working with just a different understanding of the way the world works. And I was thinking, well, that's not my understanding of what it says in the Bible, or my relationship with God, or my picture of the way that Christ relates to young people. An example of that is behaviour management. I believe that every human is made in the image of God and has the potential to be godlike. We can strive to be more perfect day by day in the love of Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit. That's our potential, that one day we'll come into the Lord's presence and that we will shine as white as snow because we are sinless. But we're only sinless because of what Christ has done for us.
Amen.
And we live in his faith.
Yes.
Now, that's our understanding, that there's a fallen world, there is such a thing as sin, fun of, and even, dare I say, persecuted in the workplace here in the UK because of their faith? Because of their faith. Because of their faith. And there are people who will try and trip them up by getting them to say things in the staff room.
Right.
So that then there can be some tale telling, and they can go to senior management and say, you'll never guess what Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith said in the staff room yesterday, but they were answering what they thought was a genuine inquiry. Why do you believe that? What do you think about that? And trying to move people towards controversial issues. And of course, it's how do we deal, especially in education, with the real sense of attack.
So ACT basically supports teachers in this, would run training courses, available on the phone. Is that the whole area that you are looking at, that initially to support Christian teachers in the outworking of their calling or outworking of their jobs in education? You're there to support having an overview of it, being able to encourage, to challenge. Is that how you do it? Is it basically?
That's right. In common with other National Christian Workplace Fellowships, like say the Lawyers Christian Fellowship or the Medical Christian Fellowship, we exist to help transform the heart and mind of the person in our profession so that they can see more clearly how they can relate their faith to their work and vice versa, their work to their faith. We are an extension of church. Church is not just the building, church is the family of God. And we're a different part of that fellowship. People need to be fed and to worship in a congregation on a Sunday. They need to be fed within a part of their local group, like a cell group or a Bible study group on a regular basis, so that they can be nurtured in their understanding of the Scriptures. And I believe that they also need something that's going to specifically relate things to their professional needs. So when Christians have a question about how should I teach this subject, or what should I do about buying these resources, or have you got any tips for behaviour management, then the best thing to do is for them to go to a group of professionals who share their faith and their profession and bring the two together. But you're right, workshops and conferences, the website, magazine, journal, and we're only a phone call away. So if people contact the office, we get a lot of inquiries via email and letter. And not just from our members who are teachers, but from school governors, concerned parents. And here are 3 examples. Our school is going to organise a Halloween party.
Yes.
How should I respond? That's a classic inquiry. The second is I'm not sure that Jimmy should be going to assemblies because it looks as though we'll be worshipping with another faith.
Right.
How can I respond to that? And the third one is, RE isn't just about Christianity. What can I do to change this? So we're able to respond, and because those and similar questions come up, we've got some quite detailed and helpful tips on how parents can respond.
Maybe we can get down to some of this nitty-gritty, Rupert, now and begin. And I suppose one of the things that's been in the news quite a bit has been bullying. Maybe we can start with that. And a lot of young people have a real problem with being bullied, and that could bring the depression with it, that could bring all sorts of things. How can we, as teachers, as governors, as parents, how can we help in such situations, and how can we begin to see schools really not only having a bullying policy that most of them do have, but actually seeing it outwork fairly? What are some of those issues that we can have there?
Well, primarily it comes down to a breakdown of relationships, of course, relationships between the children, and a lot of children feel trapped because they're not sure who they can speak to, whether they can go to a parent. Some children are scared that their parents will overreact. Or that by their parents intervening or going to school, it will make their situation more difficult. And a lot of people live in fear that the bully will not just get away with it, but will ratchet up the amount of intimidation. And so first and foremost, children have to feel that there's somewhere that they can go to share their distress. Now, I would say that there's a tendency to overuse the word bullying.
Right.
So someone can be called a nasty name once. That's not necessarily bullying. Someone can be pushed over in the playground once or twice. That's not necessarily bullying, because bullying is something that's systematic and over time. And so where there's an ongoing pattern of one or a group of children picking on one or another group of children, then that's where the adults need to step in, and first of all to help and support those who are being bullied, but secondly to help the bullies to turn around that behaviour. In my experience, suspending and expelling bullies might sound like a good way of dealing with things because it takes the burden away from those who are being bullied in the short term, but when those youngsters come back into school, or when they grow up into adult life, if we haven't stopped them being bullies, they'll come back and they'll still be bullies. And so part of the challenge for schools is to help the bully to see why what they're doing is wrong. Again, the CCTV culture is about children developing strategies to get away with stuff when no one is looking. Those dark corners, the toilets, the cloakrooms, the far end of the field where the nasty things happen, where the bullies execute their deeds. What we want to do is not to put up more cameras and put more teachers out there, but to stop people having the inclination to do what's wrong in the first place.
How do you do that? I mean, two questions really come to my mind, so let's answer that first one first of all. How do you do that? I mean, how can you, if you have somebody that really is determined to bully, and is it a case, first of all, of trying to find out why and meeting that need? How can a school, a busy school with all that's going on there and the hundreds of pupils, how can they really just get to that one pupil and really help them? How does that happen?
Well, often in a class, for instance, children will do unhelpful things to each other. Hiding pencil cases and pulling chairs out and saying unkind things. But there may be one or two people who are systematically making the lives of a large number of children a misery by their very presence. Those children who are doing the bullying, first and foremost, it's not about understanding their pain, what's driving them to do this. That's question number two. Question number one is, how can we help them to see that it is wrong?